She was 18, bright-eyed, curious, and completely unaware that one weekend would fracture her reality. A single weekend that would unravel everything she thought she knew about the world and about herself. It started with a text message, as so many stories do these days. It was from her best friend, an invitation that seemed like a perfect escape. "Come stay at my aunt's place in the countryside," it read. "It's quiet, you'll love it." After a grueling semester at college, peace and quiet were exactly what Emma craved. So, with a sense of hopeful anticipation, she packed her bag, chasing a promise of tranquility. But peace wasn't waiting for her at the end of that winding country road. The house stood silhouetted against the fading light, like a forgotten memory against the canvas of the sky. It was tall, wooden, and seemed to breathe with an ancient, weary age. It was the kind of place that creaks and groans, even when the air is perfectly still, as if the walls themselves are shifting under the weight of unseen history. Emma, trying to be brave, just laughed it off. "Old houses do that, right?" she said to her friend, her voice a little too loud in the unsettling silence. But that night, as the world outside fell into a deep, dark slumber, the house began to speak, not with creaks, but with whispers. At precisely 2:13 a.m, Emma was jolted awake, not by a nightmare, and certainly not by silence. It was a sound, a soft, ethereal hum that seemed to vibrate in the very air around her. It was like someone was singing, but the sound was distorted, as if filtered through a deep body of water. Curiosity, or perhaps something more primal, pulled her from the warmth of her bed. She followed the sound, her bare feet silent on the cold wooden floorboards. Down the long, dark hallway she went, past a tarnished, antique mirror that seemed to show her reflection a split second too late. A distorted version of herself that didn't quite look right. And then she saw it. A door. A small, unassuming door that she was absolutely certain had not been there when they arrived. As she stared at it, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs, she didn't even have to reach for the handle. It opened itself, swinging inward on silent hinges, revealing nothing but a maw of absolute blackness. Inside was a staircase, a tight spiral that descended into an impenetrable darkness. Her phone's flashlight, her only companion in this abyss, began to flicker and die, casting spastic shadows that danced like frantic ghosts. But she kept walking. She had to, because something or someone was calling her name. It wasn't a shout or even a normal voice. It was a whisper, a sound that seemed to snake its way directly into her mind, intimate and familiar, as if it had known her for 1,000 years. Emma has no memory of what she saw at the bottom of that impossible staircase. She only knows that when she finally emerged, climbing back into the quiet hallway, she wasn't the same person who had descended. Her friend, frantic with worry, said she had been gone for 3 hours. To Emma, it felt like no more than 10 minutes. The temporal disconnect was jarring, the first crack in her fragile sanity. She didn't sleep that night, or the next, or the next. Sleep was a luxury she could no longer afford, because every time she closed her eyes, the whispers from the house would return. In the weeks that followed, a profound change settled over Emma. The bright-eyed, talkative girl was gone, replaced by a quiet, haunted shadow. She stopped talking to her friends, to her family. Instead, she sat for hours drawing. She filled notebooks with strange, intricate symbols she'd never seen before, their geometric patterns both beautiful and terrifying. She told the few who would listen that the house was still with her. It was in her dreams. It was in the walls of her own apartment. It was was in her mind, a permanent resident that she couldn't evict. Therapists and doctors diagnosed it as a complex trauma response, a psychotic break brought on by stress. But Emma just shook her head. It wasn't a delusion. She said it was a memory that didn't belong to her. Here's where the story takes its final, chilling turn. Just last month, her best friend, driven by a mixture of guilt and a desperate need for answers, drove back out to that secluded spot in the countryside. She needed to see the house again, to prove to herself that it was real, that what happened to Emma wasn't just a shared hallucination. But when she arrived, the house was gone. Not burned down, not demolished. It was simply gone. There was no foundation, no rubble, no broken fence, no records of it ever existed at the county clerk's office. There was just an empty field of grass, swaying gently in the breeze, as if nothing had ever stood there at all. When her friend returned and told her what she'd found, or rather, what she hadn't, Emma didn't seem surprised. For the first time in months, a small, knowing smile touched her lips. She looked at her friend, her eyes clear for a moment, and said, "It moved on. It found someone else." Some houses aren't built with bricks and mortar. They're built with stories, with echoes, with memories, and sometimes they choose you to be their next chapter. Would you stay the night? Thank you so much for joining me on this unsettling journey. If you enjoy stories that explore the darker corners of the unknown, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It helps more than you know and ensures you won't miss our next descent into the shadows. Until next time, stay curious.